This week on What in the World is Going On, Hamas rejects ceasefire offers and threatens major conflict over Jerusalem. So stay tuned, friends. We at the Friends of Israel reported that on April 27th, just a day ago, informing you that Palestinian Authority leader Mahmoud Abbas said a day ago overnight that he would not agree to hold Palestinian legislative elections scheduled to take place on May 22nd if Israel will not allow voting in eastern Jerusalem. Of course, this is the first election they've had in 15 years, but his exact words were, "We will not agree to hold elections without Jerusalem and without its candidates because it is our eternal capital." And of course, that's why Hamas has allowed militant groups such as Islamic Jihad and others to once again launch missiles, rockets over into Israel. We further went on to report that Hamas has so far rejected any proposal to reinstate calm as long as Israel continued its current policy in Jerusalem. Friends, back on August 13th of last year, I reported on the hundreds of incendiary kites and explosive balloons that were being sent over to Israel from Gaza, burning fields and forests. I also mentioned that since 2005, when Israel graciously gave all of Gaza to the Palestinians, while evicting some of their own 8,800 settlers, Jewish people, evicting them from Gaza. And since then, over 17,000 rockets and mortars have rained down on Israel. What do the Palestinians want? Well, of course, they want the land of Israel. They want all of it, in particular, Jerusalem. And here we see the escalation happening all over again. Despite the fact that Jerusalem is not even mentioned once in the Quran, but it's mentioned over 800 times in the Bible. If you haven't watched that episode, friends, I'd encourage you to go back and watch it. It's still on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just look for August 13th of 2020, the weekly news report that I did then. Just go back and rewatch that. Well, what's the world saying about all of this? Well, most side with the Palestinians and have bought into the lie that Israel has stolen their land and that somehow if we just return to pre-67 borders, everything will be fine. No, it won't be fine, friends. That's living in la-la land. Look, after Israel declared independence in 1948, 5 Arab countries came to wipe them out at 10-1 odds, but failed miserably. After that, from 48 until 67, greedy for more land, Jordan occupied the West Bank and drove the Jewish people out of the old city and confiscated or destroyed their property and banning them from the Western Wall. Egypt also occupied the Gaza Strip and Syria the Golan Heights. There's your two-state solution, friends. Why didn't they establish one then? Furthermore, the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, known more today as the Palestinian Authority, was created in 1964. What were they going to liberate then? They already had what they are asking for today. You see, and I've said it many times, it's not about borders, but it's about existence. And like Iran, Hamas would like to see the Jewish people pushed into the sea, wiped off the face of the map. Well, how did that work for Pharaoh and his army? Not very well, did it? But the world, friends, somehow goes along with the lie. Let me read to you what the prophet Zechariah wrote some 2,500 years ago. Zechariah chapter 12, verses 1 to 3. This is what we read. "The burden of the word of the Lord of Israel, saith the Lord, which stretcheth forth the heavens and layeth the foundation of the earth and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it." And then look over at chapter 14 and verses 2 and 3. God says, and there's going to be a battle over Jerusalem. We're seeing Jerusalem continuing to grow as this cup of trembling in our world today. But there's coming a time, God says, "I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. And the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half the city shall go forth into captivity. And the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city." But then look at verse 3. "Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day, verse 4, upon the Mount of Olives. Friends, Jesus, Israel's Messiah, is coming back one day to rescue the remnant of his people Israel as he's gathering the nations to battle into Jerusalem. And Joel chapter 3, verse 2 tells us the reasons why he's gathering the nations, because he's going to enter into judgment with them there because they scattered his people and divided his land. Give it up, Hamas. Give it up, Palestinians. Give it up, world, because you are fighting a battle that you cannot win. Because this is where the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has placed his name forever. Psalm 132, verses 13 to 14. And he has given that land to the Jewish people as an everlasting possession, period.